They told you freedom meant doing whatever you want. They sold you chaos wrapped in choice. Be yourself, they said. Do what feels good. Follow your heart. But they never told you the heart is often a liar. Until the soul teaches it how to speak. You are not free when you do whatever you feel like. You are not free when you obey your impulses. You are not free when pleasure is your compass and distraction is your drug. You're free when your mind is your own. When your actions match your principles, not your emotions. When your habits are rooted in who you've decided to be, not what your environment seduces you into becoming. You are free. When you can say no to what you crave in the moment, for what you are building across a lifetime. That is the paradox, the hidden truth. The great inversion they don't want you to discover. Discipline is the highest form of freedom, because it's not the chains around your wrists that are destroying your life. It's the ones you put around your own neck every time you choose temporary comfort over permanent purpose, every time you trade vision for validation, every time you bow to fear and call it strategy, every time you betray the future for the convenience of now. Carl Jung said, you are what you do, not what you intend. And what you do repeatedly, consistently, without applause, is who you are. Not the version of you they follow online. Not the version you explain in interviews. The real you. The 5:0 a.m. you. The tired you. The unseen you. That's where freedom is forged. Discipline is not punishment. It's remembrance. A daily vow to not forget who you are, just because the world wants you distracted. It's the highest rebellion, to stay focused in a culture that worships noise, to stay committed when novelty seduces everyone else, to hold the line when everything around you says, let go. You think you need more motivation? You don't. You need structure. You need to build the bones around your greatness, so it can stand even when you fall. You need to stop asking, how do I feel? And start asking, what did I promise? Because the powerful are not powered by mood. They are powered by mission. And that mission requires devotion, not emotion. Discipline is the altar where you place your lesser self to be burned. You want freedom? Then fast from your addictions, from distraction, from excuses, from the identity that says, I'll start tomorrow. Because tomorrow is the graveyard of every transformation that never came to life. Discipline is not a switch you flip. It's a gate you walk through. And once you do, you are not the same person anymore. You speak differently. You move differently. You become unavailable for your own lies. There is a moment, the one no one sees, when your old self begs to survive, when the patterns scream, when your body craves the familiar. And in that moment, discipline is not rigid. It is sacred. It is you choosing truth over trauma, vision over validation, peace over performance, creation over chaos. This is what no one teaches. That freedom is not the absence of restraint. It's the presence of alignment. That your life does not expand because you do everything. It expands because you do the right things over and over again until excellence is your default and mastery is inevitable. This is how Cyphoria begins. Not with intensity, with integrity. When your thoughts, words, and actions are no longer strangers. When your internal world is organized, when you stop chasing external validation and start honoring internal order, because chaos is not freedom. It's a prison with better marketing. It's a seductive lie that makes slavery to impulse look like liberation. But real freedom, it's quiet, it's structured, it's earned. And the currency is discipline. Discipline is not about control. It's about channeling the wildness, the fire, the ache, the genius. It's not about becoming robotic. It's about becoming so intentional that nothing owns you but the truth. Nietzsche said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." You're either disciplined by design or you're disciplined by destruction. There is no neutral. You're either building habits or you're being built by them. And you know this. You've lived it. You felt the weight of choices that tasted good, but stole your power. You've heard the voice at midnight that said, "This isn't who we are anymore." So listen, obey that voice, not your fear, not your fatigue, not your craving for applause, but that voice, the one that sees the empire before the bricks are even laid, the one that doesn't need to be convinced, only honored, and you honor it through rhythm, through routine, through rituals that reinforce who you're becoming. Every time you wake up early, you're voting for freedom. Every time you say no to the distraction, you're voting for focus. Every time you keep your word, especially when no one's watching, you're voting for sovereignty. Because freedom is not found in options. It's found in ownership. And you cannot own your life if you don't own your time, your mind, your word. You want to change your reality, then become consistent with your intention. Not on weekends, not when you feel inspired, every single day. Because the universe is not responding to what you wish for. It's responding to what you live. And discipline is how you prove you're serious. Discipline is how you become undeniable. It's how you stop introducing yourself with words, because your life becomes your statement. It's how you stop begging for opportunities, because opportunity starts begging for you. This world is loud with people who wish, who dream, who post vision boards soaked in fantasy but refuse to show up when it's inconvenient. But the ones who rise, the ones who build legacy, are the ones who know this simple truth. The future belongs to the consistent, not the clever. You think you need to be smarter. No, you need to be steadier, because nothing outpaces someone who shows up every single day with fire in their chest and structure in their bones. Discipline is not a phase. It's not a challenge. It's a lifestyle, a soul agreement, an unspoken contract with your higher self that says, no matter how I feel, I move. No matter what I face, I lead. No matter what tempts me, I return to center. And returning to center, that's the art of spiritual architecture. That's where discipline meets divinity. When you stop chasing balance and instead you build alignment. Because you're not meant to juggle, you're meant to stand grounded, immovable, unshakable, directed. You see, the person who needs motivation has not yet tasted identity. Because once discipline becomes your identity, you don't need external hype. You move differently. You breathe differently. You live as though every act is a signature, because it is. Because everything you do writes the story of what you're becoming. And if you don't like the story, don't wait for a plot twist. Write differently. Wake up earlier. Speak with more precision. Say no faster. Honor the smallest promises like they are sacred, because they are. Every time you choose structure over chaos, you tell the world, I can be trusted with power, because freedom without discipline is disaster, and power without structure is poison. Look around. Most of the world is addicted to collapse. They call it flexibility. They call it flow. They say, I don't like routines. But what they're really saying is, I fear what would happen if I actually became consistent enough to see who I really am. Because structure reveals. Discipline exposes. It shows you the gap between what you say and what you live. And that gap, that space between potential and performance, that's where your life is being decided. Every day, in the dark, in the silence, in the moments no one will ever praise you for. That's where kings are crowned. That's where queens are forged. That's where empires are built in bone and breath, because that's where most people stop. That's where most people quit. That's where most people say, it's too hard. I'll start Monday. No one's watching. But you're not most people. You didn't come here to collapse. You came here to command, to architect a life so solid that storms admire you, to become the kind of presence that silences rooms, not with volume, but with vibration. And that vibration, it's forged in repetition, in unsexy habits, in the decision to sit down and do the work when your entire body craves distraction. That's what separates the temporary from the timeless, the loud from the legendary. You don't build greatness on what you feel. You build it on what you do in spite of how you feel. That's where it begins. That's where everything shifts. When you stop waiting to be in the mood and you start becoming someone who moves anyway, because that's real power, not control of others, but control over your own lower nature, control over your laziness, control over your reactions, control over the parts of you that still want to sabotage the very life you pray for. And that kind of power, it doesn't arrive with applause. It arrives in silence. It arrives when you realize you no longer need to be pushed because you become the pull. Let's talk about vision. Vision without discipline is delusion. It's a fantasy you use to escape the reality you refuse to change. But vision paired with discipline, that's prophecy. That's when you stop predicting your future and you become the architect of it. You want to be respected? Be reliable. You want to be trusted? Be consistent. You want to be powerful? Be predictable, not to others, but to yourself. Be someone who doesn't negotiate with their own word, because that's what builds confidence. Not empty affirmations, not viral mantras, but the soul deep knowing that says, if I said I do it, I do it. Not because I'm in the mood, but because that's who I am now. Discipline is identity in motion. It's belief with bones. And when you walk like that, you don't have to chase anything. You become magnetic because people feel it. They feel the solidity, the structure, the sovereignty. They feel the storm you tamed and the silence you command. And they will not be able to explain why they trust you. They just will. Because in a world built on performance, discipline is the deepest form of authenticity. And that is what sets you apart. Not the flash, not the flare, but the foundation So build it every day, in quiet moments, in mundane repetitions, in early mornings and late nights, in the choice to say, I don't need it to be easy. I just need it to be true. You don't need more options. You need more obedience to your higher self, to your vision, to the version of you that doesn't fold for comfort, because they were built for conquest. Because conquest doesn't begin on the battlefield. It begins in your morning. It begins with what you tolerate, what you allow, what you repeat when no one is watching. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't beg to be seen. It's quiet, almost invisible, but it rules everything. It's the unseen architect of every extraordinary life, the unseen rhythm of every high-performance mind, the unseen spine of every leader who walks into chaos and brings order. You want a stronger mind? Don't read another quote. Wake up on time. Keep your word. Lift the weight. Hold the silence. Say no to what you already know doesn't serve you. Because the strongest minds are built by the smallest victories, repeated endlessly until they become a fortress. And once you build that fortress, your freedom becomes real, not theoretical, not poetic, real. Because true freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It's the power to do exactly what you must when it's hard, when you're tired, when everything in you screams to escape. You want to know who leads, the one who doesn't run, the one who stays planted in purpose, when everyone else chases the next distraction, the one who walks into the fire, not because they love pain, but because they love truth, because discipline is devotion. It's prayer with motion. It's vision with muscle. It's your soul saying, I will not betray the calling placed inside me, no matter how long it takes. That's the difference. Most people want results. The disciplined want refinement. They don't just want the finish line. They want to become the kind of person who earns it. And that kind of person doesn't collapse under pressure. They crystallize. They become unbreakable. Not because they've never been broken, but because they chose discipline in every place they once chose distraction. This is how you become a walking temple, sacred, still, unmoved by chaos. Not because the world gets easier, but because you got stronger. And strength isn't noise. It's obedience to your vision. Obedience when you're lonely. Obedience when you're misunderstood. Obedience when the rewards don't come fast enough. Because you're not here for applause. You're here for alignment. And alignment doesn't come from feeling good. It comes from doing good over and over until excellence isn't a choice. It's your baseline. That's the new standard. That's the shift. From hoping to holding. From fantasizing to forging. From craving freedom to embodying it through structure, through rhythm, through unwavering repetition in service of something eternal. Because discipline doesn't kill your joy. It kills your chaos. And on the ashes of that chaos, you can finally build something clean, something clear, something that can carry you when your feelings can't. And you will have days where you want to quit, where your bones feel heavy and your mind plays tricks, where the old self whispers, just take a break. You deserve it. What's one day? But one day is the crack in the dam. It's how erosion begins. It's how you slide quietly, back into a life you already escaped from once. So you hold the line, you hold the vow, you hold the discipline, and the day you don't want is the day that counts the most. That's the day that defines you, not the easy day, not the day you're in the mood. The resistance day, the day the war inside you asks if you really meant what you said. And if you can win that day, if you can stand tall, breathe deep, and still move forward, you don't just earn progress, you earn trust with yourself, and that trust becomes your weapon. Because the person who trusts themselves is unshakable. They don't question their path every time it gets hard. They become the path. So write the truth into your nervous system. I don't need perfect conditions. I create them through repetition. I don't need freedom to act. I act to create freedom. That's the way. That's the blueprint. That's the code. Discipline is not a cage. It's the key to clarity, to mastery, to freedom. Not tomorrow, not when it's easy, but right now,